ẹ̀yin ènìyàn mi mo kí yín bẹ̀ o fídíò kan ni mo sáré wá fún yín pé kẹ́ sáré wò June 12 ni fídíò yìí jáde mo fẹ́ kẹ́ gbọ́ nǹkan tí olóṣèlú yìí sọ nígbà tí mo kọ́kọ́ rí fídíò yìí tí mo gbọ́ nǹkan tí arákùnrin yìí sọ ara mi bù máṣọ mo ń wò pé láti ẹjọ́ yìí ṣùgbọ́n mi ò tí ì fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi mo fẹ́ kẹ́ bá mi wo fídíò yìí nǹkan tẹ́yin náà bá rí nínú fídíò yìí ṣé a ti ń sọ pé Nàìjíríà ò work ṣùgbọ́n dàbí wípé lójú àwọn kan wọ́n ní àwọn yẹn fẹ́ dà lúrú ní jàre kò sí kankan tó ṣùgbọ́n a máa má àwọn nǹkan wọ̀nyí wá láti pé kẹ́ lè fi mọ̀ pé lóòótọ́ lódodo Nàìjíríà ò work. Ẹ bá gbọ́ nǹkan tí olóṣèlú yìí sọ ní June 12 ṣe rí fídíò yìí mo kọ̀ wó pé June 12 ó ti tó bí ọjọ́ mẹ́ta kan ṣùgbọ́n ẹ̀mí kan sọ fún pé kì í tí ì ṣe gbogbo àwọn èèyàn wa lórí fídíò yìí kí n gbé jáde ìdí nìyẹn tí mo fi ní kí n sáré mú fídíò yìí wá kẹ́ sáré wò ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi fídíò náà rí ẹ bá mi wò.
A day like this will not be complete without appreciating the role played by the likes of Colonel Abubakar Dangiwa Umar, the likes of Chief Abraham Adesanya, Alani Akao Boshoru, and the likes of Fred Eno. Mr. President, even though the governor of Kaduna State removed me from the seat, I will always remember that he was one of those who stood for us when we were in prison. He was among those who kept the torch of freedom alive while many of us languished in the cell. Mr. President, I would like to draw your attention to this fact and this truth. The national anthem cannot unite a nation. A national pledge cannot unite a nation. A constitution cannot unite a nation. A nation is united by the ideals of freedom. A nation is united by equity and by justice. Many younger generations of today have not and couldn't know the sacrifice we have made to restore democracy to this country. It is important that we bring to attention to those who were not here in those days of the struggle. This democracy was not a gift given to us by the military. It was not a lottery that we won. It was a product of struggle and sacrifice. There were people who were forced into exile, like the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, and the likes of Wole Soyinka. There were people who were sent to prison, like us. We're supposed to spend the first 15 years of our life in prison, but by the magnanimity of God, we were out. There were many who were dead. This democracy was a product of struggle. The Academic Staff Union of Nigeria made sacrifices. Nigerian media made sacrifices. The NUPENG, headed by the like of Frank Kokori, made sacrifices. The National Association of Nigerian Students made sacrifices. This democracy was a product of that struggle, was a product of that commitment, and was a product of that determination. Mr. President, you have a duty to succeed. If you succeed, you will share your glory because you came from the trenches, you came from that struggle, you come from that period of struggle. Mr. President, if you fail, they will say that those of you who fought for democracy have nothing new to offer to Nigeria. We will pray for you, and we believe that the reforms which you have taken, there is no doubt about it, you too have recognized the untold hardship and the suffering it has inflicted on millions of people. But we are expecting that at the end of the day, it will bear fruit, and people will rejoice and say that the sacrifices that they have made the consequences of that reforms was something that was worth all this trouble. Mr. President, thank you for the honor and the privilege, and do something about the Nigerian prisons, because they were the ones who hosted us in those days and in those dark days of the struggle. And on the last call, Mr. President, there are some people who are still in detention as a result of the NSAS protest. They were young people who were protesting for justice, for freedom, and for democracy. Any young protester in Nigeria today learned from you, because you were the father of protest in Nigeria. Do something about it. Give them the freedom. You taught us, you funded us to stand up and fight, so they are your children and your grandchildren. Give them the pardon. Thank you, and God bless.
Yesterday, I was reading the Vice President's statement when he was commissioning the 21 billion naira so-called resident for Vice President. And a part of that speech provoked me, where he said that the provision of a suitable residence for the Vice President was not merely a matter of convenience, but a symbol of respect for the office and the individuals who occupy it. Politicians who have presided over poverty and unemployment and widespread insecurity still want to have respect from the citizens that they have pauperized. It doesn't matter to these politicians that over 60 million Nigerians are on the brink of starvation. It doesn't matter to them that thousands of small businesses have folded up and that millions of young people are desperate and hopeless. To these politicians, you are not empowered citizens with rights. You are merely helpless subjects who should be grateful for the scraps that they dish out to you. But they forget that economic stagnation and starvation will always radicalize citizens and breed extremism. That's why you see a preponderance of violence across our country. That's why you see the rise of non-state actors everywhere across Nigeria. They forget that the people who have nothing to lose will have no other option but to revolt. That's why every day you are in traffic now in Lagos, you have people trying to pull away your side mirror, to break your windscreen, just to get something out of you. If people who have nothing to lose will have no fear revolting. How can you have a country where there is over 40% of food inflation and the priority of the elite class is to be funding white elephant projects that add no value whatsoever to the Nigerian people? Yet they have kept tariffs high on the importation of food. The Lagos state government last week cut off the 25% subsidy on public transportation, even though it has now more revenue after petrol subsidy was ostensibly removed. They can't even subsidize 25% of public transportation. Saboda Allah, saboda Annabi. Subhanallah, saboda Allah, saboda Annabi. They cannot even subsidize 25% of public transportation. Yet they ride on the latest SUVs. Governors in 3 months have spent 34 billion on local and international travel. 34 billion. They have spent 5.1 billion on refreshments in just 3 months. These are the elite class that want you to continue tightening your belt for them, that want you to show them respect. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. It's why I tell young people, you have no business bothering about what, the generations of Yokukwe see on television. Why are you bothered about that? It's your future that's on the line. You don't need affirmation from a political class that has failed you, that have mortgaged your future. You don't need affirmation from any generation than the urgency required to save your future and your destiny. It doesn't care. You shouldn't care less what people in their 60s or 70s think about an administration or not. What's your business with that? Does that put food on your table? I tried to order a bag of potatoes I love chips. I tried to order a bag of potatoes from Jos. A bag is 150,000 naira. A bag of potatoes, 150,000 naira. But that incompetent political class wants you to continue to submit to them, to hold them in majesty. Even the chicken that lays the so-called golden egg, the NNPC, where your wealth is tied to as a country, right? You're barely able to meet the quota that has been given to you by OPEC. We have a quota of 1.9 million barrels of oil per day. We're struggling to meet 1.3 million barrels of oil. Meanwhile, in 1970, we're doing 2 million barrels of oil per day. But the incompetent political class that you have are unable to even do what was done in 1970. Now, mind you, of that 1.3 million barrels of oil that is produced per day, a quarter of it is already tied to loan repayments. So it adds no value to you. A quarter is already tied to loan repayments. Afri-Exim Bank and so on, tied to loan repayments. Again, the unit cost of production in our country is $48 per barrel. The average global benchmark is between $10 to $12 per barrel. Countries that are at war and countries that are under sanctions, Iran, Iraq, they are producing between $10 to $12. We are doing $48 per barrel. Your future has essentially been mortgaged. There's no way out of this. Look, listen. You know, we're in a mess. And Abuja does not have the solution. Listen, anybody who tells you that the current political elite, the current governing class can get you out of the woods is fooling you. If we're in trouble.
Fún ara wa náà mọ̀ pé orílẹ̀-èdè yóò work, a mọ̀ dáadáa, ó dá wa lójú dáadáa pé orílẹ̀-èdè yẹn ò work. Ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi ò fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ ju o. Tẹ́rí tí n bá ti jáde báyìí tí n bá ti mú short video wá báyìí, ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa mo fẹ́ kẹ́ ẹ máa bá mi sọ̀rọ̀ lé. Nínú ọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́ ẹ bá sọ náà láti máa mú nǹkan kan jáde. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi. Nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ bá ní lọ́kàn lórí fídíò, short video tẹ́ ẹ wò yìí, ẹ bá mi sọ̀rọ̀ lé lórí. Elédùmarè á dúró tì wá o, àdé ilẹ̀ lérí wa. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Ẹ tún máa retí another short video mìíràn tá a tún máa wá fún yín. Ẹ ṣé o, ó dà.